Are you looking to become a better real estate investor? Then hang on, because you're about to experience another episode of the world's most popular real estate podcast, the BiggerPockets Podcast. But before we get to this week's show, I wanted to invite you to become part of our community, BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network. The membership is free, and you'll instantly gain access to networking opportunities, educational content, investor tools, and more. Sign up now and get a free copy of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, read by hundreds of thousands of budding entrepreneurs. Just click this link right here, or just head to BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, show 71.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets Podcast, here in the hail capital of the world, Denver, Colorado, with my good friend, Brandon Turner. What's up, Brandon?
Not much, Josh. I saw that hailstorm earlier in your area. I saw that looked pretty exciting.
Well, yeah, we were evacuated thanks to tornado warnings and wicked hail. It's been kind of a hairy afternoon, so to speak.
Nice. Well, I miss those tornado warnings. You know,
you could just get rain and misery every day. So, you know.
There you go.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice. Well, today's pretty cool show. We've got with us Phillip Vincent, a wholesaler from the St. Louis area, and he's got a lot of great tips for us. Before we get to Phillip, I know we wanted to do our quick tip. Yeah, you sound like a dying bird. Maybe one of the birds that are in your wall just came out.
No more birds, patched up and done.
Fabulous. So today's quick tip is, if you've got any kind of deal, any kind of opportunity that you want other people to know about, put it on the BiggerPockets marketplace. I think it might be obvious to us to do it, but to others it may not be as much so. Here's a quick story. I got an email today from a guy. He's a commercial real estate broker, I believe. He said, listen, I just want to thank you guys. I was really hesitant to put something up in the marketplace. I didn't think it was really worth it. So I just did it on a whim. Thought maybe I'd get a couple of people to check it out over the course of a month. He said something like within a week, he had 7 people reach out to him and contact him who want to work with him. So I think, that kind of speaks to the power of the marketplace. It speaks to the power of the volume of people we've got on BiggerPockets. And if you have a service that you provide to real estate investors, or if you've got deals or opportunities and you think, oh, well, why would I put it on BiggerPockets? Nobody's going to care. You might as well try, because it would shock you how many people are on BiggerPockets. There are lots and lots of folks, and they're always looking for something. So get out there, post on the marketplace at BiggerPockets.com/marketplace. And that's today's quick tip.
Nice. Good job. All right. So today's show, let's get on to it. Like Josh said, we have Phillip Vincent, and he is a wholesaler, and he is doing a lot of cool stuff. So we want to get to that interview. Before I do, though, real quickly, ask questions if you have any in the show notes on BiggerPockets.com/show71. You can talk to Phillip there and ask any clarification, or you want more information, whatever. That's where you find it. Also, we're going to have up a video of the hailstorm that Josh was in, so check that out too.
Yeah, I don't know if that video actually ended up surviving the hailstorm, but we'll try and get up. But without further ado, why don't we bring him in? Phillip, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brandon. Joshua, I can't look forward to being on the show with you guys.
Great. And we look forward to we look forward to hearing from you. So today we're going to talk a lot about finding good deals, and you're kind of an expert at that. And I know in today's market, it is very difficult for a lot of people to find them. So yeah, I'm excited to learn from you. But before we get to that, my first question I always ask, how did you get started in real estate?
For me, I have 2 cousins that are a little bit older than me. And they both have been framers, house framers, since the age of 15. And they're now in their early 40s. So each one of them have over 25 years experience. And they've graduated all the way up into building multi-million-dollar homes for custom builders here in St. Louis. And
nice.
So I'll never forget Go ahead.
No, sorry. So you have construction background. That's
I do.
interesting. Tell us more about that.
I'll never forget a story my cousin told me. He said that he worked for a builder. He built a house, and the builder had about $1 million in the total project. That was the acquisition of the lot, and it was the the complete build out of the house. He had $1 million in the total project. So he was going to go list the house for about $1.4 million. And about the time that he did it, the neighbor across the street listed their mid-century house, albeit it was updated, but he listed that house for $1.4 million as well. So the builder said to himself, well, man, if that old house is worth 1.4, I bet my house is worth more. So he decided to list it for $1.8 million. And about a month later, he got $1.8 million for the house.
Whoa.
And so I'll never forget what my cousin told me. He said, man, I'd hate to be that guy. He's got to pay taxes on making $800,000. and I'll never forget it. It hurt my brain when he said it. I was like, that is exactly the kind of problem I'm looking for in my life.
Yeah.
I want to make $800,000 in one deal. And so I think ever since that time, I realized that real estate's one of those businesses where you can make more than some people make in their whole lifetimes on one deal if you just do it right.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, you know, was it your cousin or your friend or whomever it was that said that? We've heard that quite a few times. I know we hear that on the site. I've heard it in discussions, and it baffles me. It really does. I mean, that's probably the best problem you can ever have is to have to pay a lot of money in taxes because you made a lot of money. So
especially considering he thought he was only going to try to make, the attempted 400. So to make 800, your taxes were already paid.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right on. So you got this inspiration, and how did you actually start getting into the biz? What did you do?
So because of my cousins and my father, he also built our homes growing up. He wasn't doing it for a living, but I was always around it. So just talking with my cousins, they always had the plans of the builders that they built for. So I got to see a lot of building plans, and they said, hey, we build this one a lot. It sells a lot. They knew which ones were popular, which ones they were building more of, and what styles, what sold. And so at the age of 21, I actually built my first house for myself. So that was my first real estate project, was general contracting my own house for myself.
At 21. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was, I don't know. I don't know what I was doing at 21. I definitely wasn't
drinking a lot of beer and keg stands.
Whatever, man.
Sure.
Were you in a fraternity, Josh? That's what I thought.
You know what? Let's just move on. I mean, really. This is not about me. This is about Phillip.
All right,
we're not going to go there.
All right. So you built your first house at 21 years old, which is impressive. Not many people.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
It's not just impressive. I think it's more impressive than Brandon does. Just so you know.
Thanks. So how did you parlay that? I mean, where'd you go next? Did you go right into real estate investing, or did you live for a while?
No, I lived in the house for a little bit over a year, and I sold it. I think I made somewhere around $60,000. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that was pretty easy. I'd like to do that again. And so at the time, I actually owned some cellular phone stores. And so that was my primary focus at the time. But then I said, hey, I'd like to get more into this building. And so I started to build some spec homes in the early 2000s.
So, I mean, it sounds like you're an entrepreneur at heart. Obviously, you went out, got into the mobile store business, and all of a sudden you're popping into real estate. I wonder. I think most successful investors tend to have that mentality. Would you agree?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Risk takers.
Yeah, you have to have something, right? And I think that's it. So you got into spec building, which is pretty similar to what your uncle was doing and cousins. I can't keep up with your family. You got too many people going on here. So somebody
it gets worse. It gets worse. Just wait.
Oh boy. So somebody's in there. You decide to get into spec building. Tell us about the first spec that you did.
Oh, you guys will love this story. I built a house, I believe it was 2003. I bought the lot from a friend of mine, found a plan that I liked, started building it, and everything was going great. I even, through my cellular phone store, I had a real estate agent of all people come into my store. He told me he was getting ready to buy a house, and I said, I happen to have a house that fits exactly what you're wanting. And I sold it to him. I didn't have to pay a commission on either side. I sold it to a real estate agent, and I finished it out the way that he wanted from the rest of the way in.
Nice.
Wow. So it was a custom build, not just a spec, but it was a total custom.
Yeah, I'm a custom builder. I would consider myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So did that change? I mean, did that change how you kind of did things? I mean, so had you broken ground at that point, or you had? Okay.
Oh yeah, we were framed up. We were just waiting to put the drywall in.
Okay. Gotcha.
The unique thing about that story too is, I've listened to all of your 70 podcasts. I've never heard anyone talk about this. I had a situation in St. Louis where the owner of the title company stole $11 million.
Whoa.
Wow.
30,000 of which was my money.
Oh boy.
And I'll never forget what had transpired a few days before the story broke was that when you build houses, when you get draws from the title company, it's like a checkbook, right?
Okay.
So you ask them to draw it from the bank, and so I asked her to draw 30,000, or I asked her to draw 50,000, and she said, "Do you need that much right now?" And I said, "Well, I think so." I said, "Probably only need 30,000, but I'd just like to have it there." And she says, "Well, let's just go ahead and do 30, and if you need it, we'll come back and do another one." So it turns out, had I taken the 50, I actually would have lost 50,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Well, I lost. I've had quite a bit of money stolen from me in the land of St. Louis as well. So I feel your pain, my friend.
Who was it? I probably know him.
We'll talk
St.
about
Louis
that
is a
another day.
Small town.
It is indeed, man. Well, all right. So you did the spec build. You lost $30,000. Did that get recovered through like insurance or anything like that, or
$6,483 of it did.
Wow.
I got the check and I remember thinking to myself, well, the only people that won in this deal was the lawyers.
Yeah.
So
it really sucks. That really sucks. All right. So you get this first spec. What were the final numbers in terms of profit and cost?
I would have made 70. He added his some numbers onto the top. So I would have made 70. I think he added a commission onto the build price and gave it back to himself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It is. But the numbers were there.
Is that kosher?
It worked.
I don't know.
I ended up making about 30,000 instead of 40,000 instead of 70 on that deal.
Interesting.
That's still not
a bad first deal, right?
No, 70 would have been better though.
Yeah. All right. So you knocked it out, and do you go and do another one, or what's next?
Well, that's when my life takes a little bit of a change. I owned a website, an automotive website, to remain nameless, but they used to put fish tanks in cars, if that helps you at all. And so I made my living actually through AdSense and AdWords, pay-per-click advertising.
Gotcha.
And so I was making a lot of money, and I was parlaying it back into real estate.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, like buy and holds?
No, actually new construction. I went with that cousin who told me the story of the $800,000 guy. We decided to do a joint venture where he would put up his time and effort, and I would put up my cash, and we would build our first $1 million spec.
Nice.
The year was 2007. And
it's a good year, especially to build the first spec.
Great year.
Yeah, first $1 million spec. And that's actually why I got my real estate license. I knew on $1 million house, you're going to pay $50,000 in commission.
Yep.
And I wanted to not give $50,000 away. So I went out and got my real estate license at that time.
Nice. Good idea, I think.
How'd that work out?
Horribly. We're going to get into the failures.
Sorry to laugh. I mean, we laugh with you, not for you, or not with you.
I drive by that house still. It's in Chesterfield.
Do you egg the house when you drive past it?
No, I love that house. I'm proud of what I built there. My pocketbook doesn't reflect what happened. So.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You learn from those mistakes. I've definitely learned from all of my mistakes.
So it was $1 million house. I got to ask, how much did you lose?
200,000.
Ouch.
All right. So we're net negative, lots of cash at this point.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, shoot, this real estate business might not be the right business.
Well, for $1 million spec builds in 2007 and 2008, it was not the right time.
Yeah. So obviously you had to have transitioned your course.
I did. Because I had my real estate license, I was able to fall back on that. I was out of the cellular phone business. I had sold those in I think 2002, and the internet money had dried up as well. So I had to look for something else, and we started to buy, fix up, and sell. So normal rehabs to retail.
Okay, and so you became basically a house flipper. I mean,
yeah, with my father. I was actually listing his properties for him, And my goal was always to try to get in front of the deals. Where were the deals at? And that led me on my course to find eventually wholesaling, and the company that I work for today.
Okay, so why don't we walk through that transition real quick? That you went from house flipping to working for a company who wholesales lots, or you're wholesaling for a company that does a lot of flips or whatever. Kind of walk us through that transition.
So 2007, 8, 9, there was a lot of foreclosures, and we went a lot on your auction.com, your Hudson and Marshall, your auction sites, and we would go and buy them. And I'll never forget that feeling of when it was auction day, because they used to be on site or in a big ballroom. And it was so exciting because I had already done my due diligence. We had already been in the house. We figured what the ARV was, what their fix-up cost would be, and we knew where we had to buy it. And so that the adrenaline rush of going there that day and trying to bid on a house, the problem is that when retail buyers were there that day, you would never get anything bought because they would always outbid you. So there wasn't enough auctions in our town to keep us busy enough. So it made me try to go out and find more how to get in front of the deal. So I thought I should go work for an REO company. They have all the bank-owned listings. I should work for them. Yeah. Well, it turned out it didn't work out that way. It was unfortunate because I would know about deals, 90 days early, but because of the owner occupancy period, the 15 days or 20 days or 30 days where they had the first right to buy it, I would know about this deal 90 days before it was even listed, but I still had to wait to day 31 sometimes to put my offer in. So it wasn't. It was not. I wasn't in front of the deals like I thought I would be.
There was no advantage.
No advantage, whatever. In fact, it was just more frustrating than anything.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, how did you get from that to the current job?
So I kept going. I knew that wasn't going to work. I reached out to my local RIA. There's RIA here in St. Louis called the Southside Investment Club, and they have about 2,300 members. So I started going to the meetings. And they have a very vibrant community where they post, I'm looking for gutters, I'm looking for a lawyer, whatever there is, kind of like BiggerPockets, just on a smaller scale. And because there's about 40 emails a day, I get them in one email at 5:10 in the morning. And I'll never forget, I woke up, the very first one said, Faster House is looking for an investor. And then I read the job description of what they were looking for. And I looked at my wife and I said, this job is what I do best. And so I called Brian, who owns Faster House, and set up an interview. And within about 3 weeks, I had the job.
Nice.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So what were you hired to do exactly?
So my job is to take the leads, go meet with the people, figure out what the rehab cost is going to be, what the ARV is going to be, and get the house under contract. And that's all I really need to do. Then the opposite side of it, so once we buy a house, then if I'm going to wholesale, then I also need to find the buyer. So I do a lot of networking with other wholesalers, other investors, other rehabbers.
Gotcha.
Okay, cool.
So well, let's start with the leads then. I mean, how are you guys now that you're there and you've been working there? It sounds like a number of years. Yeah. So first step in the process, right? You gotta find the leads. So where are you guys finding them, and what are you doing? What are your sources?
I know you guys don't like Bandit Signs, so I'm happy to say we don't do Bandit Signs.
Woohoo!
We do a lot of direct mail, yellow letter campaigns, probate leads, absentee owners, a lot of pay-per-click, online SEO, natural SEO. We create a lot of content. We try to do a lot of testimonials, a lot of video. Brian and Debbie are very good at building the company right. So as far as the little guys go, we're actually pretty big. Brian's bought over 60 houses a year for the past decade. So even if you think about, through those dry periods, he was consistently buying that many houses with his marketing efforts.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, those are kind of the traditional methodologies. What are you guys finding now? And are you focusing on the St. Louis area?
I am.
Okay.
We bought 77 houses last year, and so when people ask me where do we buy, it's almost easier for me to say where we don't buy, which is North City. Yeah. Just about everywhere else in St. Louis area and St. Charles area counties, we buy in those areas.
Gotcha. And do you guys focus on the A, the B, the C? Like what neighborhood types? Are you focusing on the high end, the lower end?
We definitely focus on the high end. I've started to get myself into the lower end. There's a lot of REITs in town that are buying up houses and they're almost paying retail prices for them.
Okay.
So there's money to be made. So I try to find those deals as well.
Gotcha.
So you're saying you start with the high end. Now, I feel like most wholesalers or investors or whatever, myself included, we all started with the cheapest, ugliest, dirtiest houses. I mean, like, there's a house for $5,000, you know, like, I mean, that's what like a lot of investors go for. So how does that compare with what you're doing, and why do you guys do the higher end ones? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, with the higher end ones, we always look at the school district. If there's a lot of people looking for that school district, it's always easier to sell it.
Yep.
And so when I say higher end, I mean, St. Louis prices are not like Washington or Denver's prices. You know,
not even close.
Not even close. You know, I could almost say 300,000 plus is a higher end, where I think in Denver it's about your median price.
Yeah.
And
I bought my first multi in St. Louis was 90,000 for 4.
What street?
We'll keep off that. It was South City. It wasn't good.
Yeah. That's a tough area. I mean, a lot of people like South City, and I think it's definitely going the right way. But you know, this was years ago that you're talking about.
Yeah, I was there at the wrong time. I know you had a point on that.
Well, I just want to know, like, I mean, what does that mean? I mean, what are these conditions of these houses? What's an ideal property that you're looking for? Are they 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice houses? You know,
sure.
That
ranches.
Okay.
We try to stay away from weird designs that don't, you know, functional obsolescence doesn't sell well. We like normal brick ranches that need the updates. You know, we buy a lot of time capsule houses. You know, I think the generation that we buy from, they had the feeling that if it wasn't broke, they weren't going to fix it. Yeah. So we just bought a condo in a nice suburb, and it still had lime green countertops, you know, orange dishwasher. I can't believe a dishwasher made it since the 70s, but it did.
Wow.
They didn't fix it.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
No, apparently not. And so the time capsule houses are great. We really try to buy houses that people took care of. We'll buy some junky ones too, but we hardly ever rehab those. We like to rehab houses that were taken care of because just the pride of ownership, and people that took care of the house over their whole life of owning it. It always seems like those houses are easier to rehab versus the houses that, you know, they just neglected everything.
Yeah, that's for sure. I walked through a house yesterday that it was, I mean, just a pit. Like, they neglected everything. And it wasn't just outdated. It was just terrible. And so we're not going to do anything with it because it was just far more than I think it's worth putting into. So yeah, I wish I had done more when I was starting out with the good houses in good neighborhoods that were just ugly or whatever. Right. You know, like I wrote a post a while back called like how not to flip a house. And I'll link to that in the show notes at BiggerPockets.com/show71. But in that, my largest mistake in that property, I mean, it wasn't a $200,000 like, you know, spec build. So I mean, you take the cake on tragic stories. But like, I made no money on this deal after like 2 years of work, and the reason why is because I bought something that was functionally obsolescent. If that's like, it was a duplex that I decided to turn into a single family house. Terrible. Obsolete. Is that right? Okay, fine. Yeah. Thank you, Mom. So I bought a house that was a duplex, and I wanted to turn into a single family house. It was huge. I mean, I thought a big, huge house would be awesome. But what's that quote you said a minute ago? Like, don't buy weird. We don't buy weird. Yeah, I should have learned that lesson up front. That's a huge tip for anybody listening, I think, is especially when you're starting out, don't buy weird. Because some guy
and making moves like that, because I made a similar thing. I turned a 4 into a 3 once, and that was a big mistake as well. Yeah, so sure. I think, if you got the guts, if you got the framework, if it's built, for a specific purpose, you usually want to kind of keep to that because there's typically a reason.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Right on. So you're picking up these properties, and ultimately, as part of this company that you're at, your goal is to wholesale them. Are you guys doing any flips, or are you really just turning them?
Sure. So out of the 77 last year, I would say half of them we rehabbed and sold retail, but the other half that we wholesaled the properties. And the way we do it is we have 2 full-time crews. And so when the crews are busy, we look at wholesaling. When the crews are not busy, they move on to rehab them.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I'd never really heard that model before. It makes sense for a big company, like a larger company, to do that, though.
Sure.
Well, it makes sense for somebody smaller, too, though.
Yeah, it really does, right? Like,
if you've got the leads.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't fall in love with any deal. I mean, it's almost like don't go against the stream. If you can sell it and make a good dollar amount, just get it gone and move on to the next one.
Well, I think the key is, deal flow, right?
Sure.
What you guys, it sounds like, are doing is you're pumping out a fair amount of deal flow and you're getting a lot of leads and you're going through them and you're not tossing them. If you're tied up in one way, you're using another strategy. And I think that's something that not enough newer investors do, is have the multiple exits, know that, okay, well, this doesn't meet my criteria for A, so I can do B or C with it. Or A, you know what, I'm so tied up doing A and B that I got to let this deal go. I'm going to throw it in the trash. Well, why would you throw it in the trash? That's money, right?
Yeah, I don't ever let anything go in the trash. I bought a house a few weeks ago for $1,000 that I sold for $2,000.
Well, there you go.
And I get just as excited about those deals as I do the big ones, because in this business, I think I try to look at it backwards. I'm trying to figure out what my buyers will pay, and then I buy it for less.
So $1,000 house, are we buying in Detroit, or what are we doing here, man?
Oh, we've got some Detroit-esque areas.
Yeah, St. Louis is way Detroit-esque, man.
Yeah, certain parts. Not where I live, but
East St. Louis. Come on.
I bet you spent a lot of time there, didn't you?
I did not spend a lot of time there. If you're inferring anything like strip clubs and gambling.
1 a.m. to 3 a.m.
Yeah, I don't do those things. Thank you very much. But, thanks for playing, Phillip.
That's funny. So $1,000. I want to hear about this $1,000 house. Like, what was it? What did it look like? How'd you find
North County, it was horrible. I think the person was going to buy it and put $10,000 in it and turn it into a rental.
Okay. So, do you mind me asking, like, how did you get the lead for that? Do you remember how that came in? You don't have to know.
It was,
I'm just curious.
No, it was another wholesaler brought it to me.
Okay.
That's the other thing. You guys have asked me, how do we find our deals? We work with wholesalers a lot. Young wholesalers that don't know where to sell their house. They go through they have the cojones to go out and put the sign out and go get it under contract, and then they're like, now what in the world do I do with it? And with Faster House, we have a reputation that's very, very good. And if we say we're going to buy it, we're going to buy it from you. And so I think we help solve that issue for a lot of young people starting out. They don't know who's going to be their buyer. We buy just about every house as long as there's meat on the bone. So people like to work with us. So we have a lot of referral business.
Okay. I want to actually go back a little bit. I know we're talking about the deals and stuff, but it occurs to me that we never really talked about, you have a job. I mean, it's a position, a job at a company that does this stuff. And that is something that we recommend people all the time, that if they want to get started in real estate, they should pursue that kind of avenue. So why don't we talk about why do you recommend other people start that way? Is to go work for maybe a larger investor and learn the business that way? Or what are your thoughts on that?
So January 1st, I pulled my brother and my brother-in-law into wholesaling from their corporate jobs. And so both of them have aligned themselves with other people that have been in the business. And they've come leaps and bounds in 5 months. They're making more. Both of them last month made more in 1 month than they did their previous year at their secular job. And so aligning somebody with that's already, doing it on your own is kind of like you might be lost in the desert. But if you're joining a group, you might not make some of those mistakes. Like you said, buying the $5,000 house in the bad neighborhood and putting $50,000 in it. You probably won't do that if you're with somebody who's seasoned. Yep. So I strongly suggest aligning yourself with somebody.
Nice. So let's talk about what your day looks like, because to me, I think it'd be interesting for investors, new and experienced, to kind of hear what's a day in the life. What's a day in the life like? So yeah,
I have a great life. Yeah, about 9 o'clock, 9:30, I show up at the office. I usually have my first appointment around 10. I usually like to eat. I hate to eat alone, so I like to do a lot of networking for lunches. Usually have appointments 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, however many I can stack up in a day. And I go meet with the families and try to get them under contract. Okay.
So your role is really, really exclusively, you're the guy who goes out and deals with the folks once somebody at the firm finds the good lead.
Sure. I mean, I'll vet them a little bit. I'll get the lead through the office, and I'll call them to make sure that there is equity there, or at least the chance at equity.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to set it up immediately. I like to go out sometimes I'm always, or a lot of times I'm the first guy there, and sometimes that's bad because they want to get 3 or 4 prices and then they just use my number against me. But I still like to be the first guy there. We try to do a lot of value add. These people, when they're selling these houses, a lot of times it's the first time they've ever done it. They don't know what to do with the stuff or the car or the jewelry, and so we have people that we work with for all of those. So I feel like even if I don't buy their house, I'm still giving them a value add for being there. And I think people like to work with us because of that. We just, we tell them that we're an option for them. We're not used car salesmen. We're a very positive company. We try to go in and say, hey, here's what we can do for you if this works, great. And we've had good success because of that.
Cool. Yeah, well, and I think that's a good way to look at real estate in general, right? If you can just add value to somebody's life, you may not get every deal, and that's okay. You're not going to get any deal anyway. But if you can just kind of build that reputation and help other people in the process, I think a lot of real estate investors would have not such a bad name. So anyway, kudos to you on that. Yeah. Can we walk through the conversations that you have with people, with motivated sellers? So when a lead comes in, let's say a lead comes in through yellow letter or whatever, you send out a mail and they call in. Do you take that initial phone call? Does it go to a voicemail? And then what do you say on that call with somebody?
So it goes into the call center, and then they take the lead, and it comes back to me in a text form or an email form, and then I call them back.
Okay. And what do you say
during business hours? I should preface, during business hours we do have a live. Heather answers the phones for us there at the office.
Okay.
Yeah. And what information is actually given to you specifically?
To be honest, I just need their number. I'll find out everything else on the phone call. But I mean, I do know quite a bit. I usually know the address, why they're selling, and just from the address alone, I can know a lot because I try to know every zip code in my city. So if I just have their name and number, I can usually take it from there.
That's
gotcha.
Cool. Do you then ask? I mean, like, do you do a little bit of research ahead of time? Look up their, the county records or whatever. What do you look for beforehand?
Equity. I'm looking for meat on the bone.
That's it.
And
we call it. How do you do that?
A lead that has potential is what we call it. And when you say that sentence, you think maybe it just means a house that a willing seller. That's not what that means for us. A lead that has potential, to me, means that the person owes less on the house than what Faster House is willing to pay for it.
Yep.
Plain and simple. Okay. So a lot of the houses we buy have 100% equity, obviously, but any house where they owe less than what we would buy it for, that's a lead that has potential. So I will go out on that lead and I'll try to get it bought, and I have a pretty good close ratio.
Okay. So, well, I mean, I want to know this because I'm not good at this side of things, right? So somebody calls me 2 days ago. I talked to a lady who calls me up and says, I want to sell my house. And she's like, can you come out and take a look at it? What do I say to her? I mean, do I say, well, first of all, let's talk about how much equity you have? Or, because that would be a rude question to just throw out.
No, so you don't ask it that way. You got to be a little smoother than that.
Yeah, Brandon. Jeez,
well, I want to hear your
GQ Smooth over here is Fumbleina.
All right, teach me.
I love this business because they're selling me a product, right? They're selling me their house, so they want my answer. They want to know how much I'm going to pay them for it, and so it's different than sales, where you're trying to force it back on them. They want me to give them the number, and you get in the conversation. How long have you owned the home? Why are you selling the home? One I've started to implement is, what style is the home? A lot of people have no idea what kind of house that they live in. And usually it's the time for them to go, oh, it's an old piece of crap, which is not a style of a home, but it tells me a little bit more about what they think their home is worth.
Interesting.
It gets them talking.
Yeah.
We buy a lot of estate properties. So I feel like a shrink half the time. When you say, when I go on these calls, I'm dealing what I always call with the most responsible child, the executor of the estate.
Yeah.
And so, it's an emotional time for them. They've got other kids, or their brothers and sisters that are usually out of town that think it's worth $1 million. So they're fighting them off, and every day it's like, well, Jerry lives in Chicago. He hasn't been down to help me, and by that fourth weekend, their back is hurting, and they've just now gotten over the hump of how much stuff that people have, and they're just ready for some help. And so, I think that we do a good job at, selling that house might be the hardest part. And if we can make that easy on them, people love to work with us because of that.
Okay.
That's great.
So you said earlier you had a good close rate. Do you happen to have a percentage, or do you say you close most of them? a quarter of them?
Not most of them. I wish that would be
nice.
Not most of them.
Like what's good? Like what's a good close rate when you're meeting with somebody?
Well, how many leads I go on versus leads that actually had potential, that out of a given month, if I buy, probably four houses myself out of 20 good leads.
Okay. All right. So, and what about do you happen to know like good leads versus not good leads? Like let's say 100 calls come in.
Yeah.
Out of them, what do you think would actually be a meat on the bone lead that you're going to pursue?
30%.
Okay. And then out of those, you maybe close a few out of them.
Yeah, a few a month.
Okay.
I mean, just because they have equity doesn't mean they see it your way or that they're going to want your price.
Yep. Yeah. That makes sense.
Hey, man, I could talk to my parents all day about what their house is worth, but they don't want to hear it.
No, they have it in their head. I like it when people tell me what they want to sell their house for based on what their bills are. Like they say, well, we owe this to the doctor, so we need $64,000. I'm like, well, your house isn't worth $64,000 just because you need it for a hospital bill. It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you make a lot of these calls and you talk to a lot of these people. I wonder, how much of this is a generation gap? How much of this is just pretty much, is it anybody who's got a house and they've been there for a few years, they don't have a clue? Or are we talking, the old generation, the 60, 70, 80-year-olds that are just kind of not all on the ball with what their properties are worth?
It's their kids that we're dealing with. So the boomers' parents, whose houses we're buying in general.
Yeah.
When you say the generations, the baby boomers still live in their McMansions and still have debt, and they're very busy. Their parents paid off their house in probably the 60s or 70s.
Yeah. And
they never moved. And those baby boomers don't want to move into mom and dad's house, at least in St. Louis. Yeah. They don't want to go back there. They have memories there, but they're not trying. And honestly, if they were going to fix it up and put their kid in it or something, I would have never gotten that lead. So I'm only dealing with houses of people that don't truly want the house anymore. It's a burden for them instead of an asset.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you have an idea of how many? I mean, I'm jumping all over the place today. I'm sorry, but what do you think these leads?
These frantic people.
I have a lot of questions and I don't know where to throw them all in. So my first question, I guess, is the leads you talked about. SEO, you're getting them from yellow letters. You're getting them from a lot of different places like that. What is most effective for you? Like, do you know your company? Like, what's driving the most leads?
The most profitable or the most amount?
Oh, good question. How about I don't know,
both.
Either.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in some of the lower-end areas, cost-wise. I mean, we can buy houses for $15,000 and sell them for $30,000. Do that pretty consistently. But your bigger dollar houses are the ones that you are in the higher-end areas, the nicer areas.
Gotcha.
And what leads then? Yeah, I was gonna say, what leads do you think are best for like the higher-end areas? Is it estate sales? I mean, like
estate sales, probate leads. Oh yeah, probate leads.
Okay,
they're harder to find, but when you do find them, they're usually more fruitful than just somebody that bought their house 3 years ago. Those kind of deals you had said about, are they young people calling in? Hardly ever are those the houses that we buy.
Okay.
We're buying time capsule houses that have been in the family for 30, 40, 50. In fact, I went on a lead the other day. The mother lived in the house since 1931.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a long time.
That is a long time. That is.
Yeah.
So where do you find your probate leads? Is that through like mailing lists or?
So we subscribe to two local, the Countian, which is the St. Charles County paper, and then the St. Louis Business Journal, which is the St. Louis County. And we go through there. Just because a probate's open does not mean that they owned property. They could have lived in an apartment or with somebody else. So we have to match it against the tax records to see if that person did in fact own property. Then we need to look up to see if there was a loan taken against it recently. We're trying to look for equity plays. And once we realize that there is equity and the probate, it's a house that's going to be sold, that's when we start our marketing campaign to the probate.
So what are you finding exactly in these papers? Are you finding like a death notice? Or does it say, probate or estate sale or something like that? What information are you seeing there?
What you just said, the death notice.
Okay.
Death notice.
Oh, so you guys are literally going through whenever people pass away and you're trying to see if they have assets, a property in their name.
That they might want to sell.
And then how do you actually find out who's in charge of the estate at that point?
We, fortunately for us, in that information, they also put who the attorney is.
Okay.
So we send letters to the attorneys as well.
Gotcha.
No, this isn't the obituaries, is it? This
No,
is like a legal
no.
death
This
notice?
is open probate cases.
Okay.
Okay.
So someone has passed away. You have to open probate. It's like a year, and you're shouting from the rooftops, "Hey, did George owe anybody any money? If you did, now it's time to come get it." Well, during that time, that's when we start to market to them, because most likely they're going to have a house that they want to sell.
Okay.
And what's the amount of time it typically takes between the beginning of marketing on one of these probate deals and the time at which you guys close on the ones you close on?
It's a good question. We try to touch them about 5 to 7 times, including the attorney as well. So that's 14 touches. I think because we CC the attorney, people take it a little bit more serious, that they almost think that we're working with the attorney. Because our letters say, "Hey, we've also CC'd your lawyer about this if you guys want to sell it." So I'm going to say 5 months.
Okay.
Once they start getting it to closing. I had one close the other day that it took us 3 months to get to the closing table for many, many reasons. And so fortunately for us, when you buy as many houses as we do, it's okay if it takes that long, because we're buying houses every single month in the year. It's not like we have a slow period, or, we're buying houses every month. So we go along on the ride with them. They have a goal to sell the house. We have a goal to buy the house.
Yeah.
And so together we work together, and we're flexible.
I like the idea of copying the attorney. I think I think it kind of extends some kind of level of professionalism, because I think the property owners, if you were doing something that wasn't on the up and up, and you're not, then you wouldn't be CCing their lawyer. So I think it actually probably gives them a little bit level of comfort to know that the lawyer is in on the picture, sees that you guys what you're doing.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. All right, so you had talked about on the lead side the website, and you seem to have a pretty active website. How does that do as a traffic source for your leads, and how do you how long did it take you to get that to start working as a lead engine?
Been at Faster House for a few years, and I've noticed a change even in that short amount of time, that we used to get a lot of yellow pages calls, and those have almost all gone away, and now they're almost all internet marketing leads.
Interesting.
Can you clarify that? So what do you mean you're getting yellow pages calls?
So yellow pages, I don't know what you call it.
The phone book, yeah.
The phone book, in the phone book. And so those leads have dried up over time. We still get them every once in a while. I mean, it's still probably an effective marketing tool. It's just not our business. We'd only do probably 5 houses a year if we relied only on the yellow pages. But with the internet, we probably get, I would say 70 or 80% of our leads are through pay-per-click, or just naturally ranking high for keywords here in St. Louis market.
So you're also putting ads in the yellow pages, is what you're saying?
Sure, we've done it for years.
Okay.
We've continued to do that. What I'm saying is, in the 2 years, I've noticed the change, the switch from what used to work to what's working today.
No, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're doing pay-per-click and you're doing organic. What type of content are you guys producing that you would say is driving people? Because you said, go out and produce decent content. What might an example of that be for somebody who's not in the St. Louis area?
Nothing's better than a good testimonial.
Okay. How does that look?
So if I know it's going to, sometimes their personality is better than others. And so, they have a little bit of character in them. So I'll show up at the closing, say, "How is your experience with Faster House?" And I'll throw the camera on. I won't even tell them what's going to happen, because if they have to think about it, people get nervous. I'd rather that be natural. And I say, "Hey, how's your experience with Faster House?" And they'll say, "It was great. You said what you were going to do." And, it's less than a minute long, but it's some of the best content, because it's not prompted or scripted. It's from the people that we're actually buying houses from.
Well, that's cool. So did you throw that up on YouTube and then put it on your site then, I'm assuming, or how does that work?
Correct. That's correct. We do.
Okay. That's a cool idea. That's very cool. I mean, just in like internet business in general, that's just kind of a common thing. Not just internet business, but all business, right? Testimonials are always
when they're real.
Yeah, when they're real testimonials.
When they're real. You can see through them when they're not.
It's so easy. Yeah. John P. says this, and there's no link, and there's no picture, and there's no video. You go to pretty much every guru site, and you'll see John R. and Mike P. And there's, okay, I believe you.
Ours are pretty funny because they're so natural. I remember a couple recently, when she was done talking, she elbowed her husband for him to start talking. You're just not going to get that. Yeah. If you're
kind of how Brandon and I point to each other on the podcast here.
Yeah, exactly. Little ribbon going on.
That's pretty awesome.
That's funny. That's funny. Awesome. You talked about it's like pay-per-click ads. Is that Google or Facebook or Bing or what are you doing? What are you guys doing for pay-per-click?
What's Bing, Brandon?
Yeah, I hear it's a search engine people use.
Correct on all three.
Okay.
Google is Google is the internet. If you're going to do searching, they have most of the traffic. Facebook is a different animal, and I'm already starting to see the shift there too. If you think about the stickiness of Facebook, the average person spends 45 minutes a day on Facebook. Oh. That is just a ridiculous number. So the amount of eyeballs that they have there, it's a different type of marketing. So if you type in buy my St. Louis house for cash into Google, you're probably looking for me. Where if you're saying, hey, I need help selling my house, and then the ad shows up on the right side with Facebook, it's a different type of advertising, but it's so much cheaper for those clicks that I think Facebook has its place. And in fact, I think Facebook is doing it right. They have so much data about who the people are. You can really, really get targeted on your marketing efforts with Facebook.
Yeah, I find that I get a lot of clicks. I'm advertising Facebook. I don't do much with Google at all right now, but I get a lot of clicks on Facebook, but I don't know if I get a whole ton of good
conversion.
Clicks. Yeah, I haven't done, in the last, month I've been doing Facebook ads pretty heavily. I haven't got one single deal yet from it, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, it's only a month, so it takes time. Obviously, they got to build up a brand name and all that good stuff. But
sure, are you doing one blanket ad for your whole city, or are you trying to get it broken down into smaller campaigns?
I'm doing one for my whole city because my area is really small. I don't live in a large
There's like
area.
6 people in a city.
Okay, yeah.
I do it like my county. And so here's what I did. My ad just says what does it say? Something about Aberdeen in the title of it. So then people are like shocked there's a local ad because people don't advertise on Facebook in my area. And then so I'm getting a lot of clicks. I don't know if it's worthwhile, but I think total in the past month, I spent like $200 and I probably had a dozen phone calls or so. And so
that's still pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, if it takes me 50 phone calls to get my first deal out of Facebook, and it costs me a total of $300 or $400 or $500, I mean, that's still worth it. I'm sure.
And even if for the whole year, if it's only $2,400 a year, you're probably going to get one deal done and make more than that. So
yeah, exactly. So I won't stop it anytime soon. I think that's a lot of people stop their direct mail or their marketing or whatever way too soon. They think, it didn't work this month, I better quit it.
Yeah. That's good for me, by the way, when people do that. I work with a printer, and he says 90% of the time somebody will buy his list and mail to them, and they'll never come back again.
Just send it once. Yep.
And then complain. There's a lot of complainers out there, and they just don't listen. They're, the guy's saying, hey, you need to continually touch these people over and over.
Yeah.
They just don't believe in it. You have to look at marketing as it's not costing you any money. It's actually making you your money if you do it correctly.
Yeah. And they say 7 touches, to get somebody. But well then let's go back to what Brandon was talking about with the ads. I think a lot of newer investors give up too soon. We've talked about that a lot. Particularly with like, hey, I just spent, $200 to acquire a lead, and 20 leads and none of them have panned out. Well, I should just stop. This method sucks. Well, had you gotten 1,000, you might have gotten 3, and the next 1,000 might have gotten you 3. But guess what? Those 3 leads that actually closed and that you spent $1,000 on, brought you a hell of a lot more money than it cost you. So yeah, you really do need to be patient and just kind of buy yourself a little bit more time, I think.
Yeah, I think you should almost go into it with a 6-month strategy. If you're not going to do 6 months worth of advertising, you probably shouldn't even start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. What do you think would be a fair budget then? For somebody who says, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I could get into real estate for nothing. I don't need money to buy the property. I don't need money to lock it in. I can wholesale it. It's not going to cost me anything. Well, that's not true. I mean, I actually, it's funny. When I started as a real estate agent, I kind of had that mindset. I was like, well, I don't have a ton of cash that I want to spend on my marketing. And, it can't cost that much to be a real estate agent. And I very quickly learned otherwise. But I was fine. But I think most people find themselves in a position where they're not fine, and they find themselves where they under budget the actual cost to get in, and the under budget the cost to do some marketing. So, what would you say a new investor should have in pocket to be able to start getting those deals flowing in terms of marketing cash?
I mean, I like the number of about $1,000 a month to really do it right. You can get started super cheap. I saw a guy the other day took cardboard paper and sticks and made "We Buy Houses" signs with them and stuck them on the side of the road. We see a lot of guys starting off with the Bandit Signs. I don't know why that's the go-to for people, but it seems to be.
It's because the gurus like it, and
sure, and they honestly work.
And they work.
They really do work, and so
they just
we don't do
blight
it.
our
We think
cities.
it's tacky. Yeah, we think it's tacky, but I mean, we do buy a lot of houses from people that do it. So
yeah.
you know,
Guilty by association. You're off the show.
Sure.
Phillip.
Let them do the dirty work, right? And so when you said when they're getting started, reaching out to your local RIAs, obviously, finding guys like us that want to buy your houses. So, I would say it's a marketing business and then it's a people business. So if you're going to go through all the trouble of marketing, you need to also have the people behind you that need to want to buy the houses, because then you might let deals go away because you didn't have someone to buy the house from you to take it down.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. I think $1,000 a month is probably, say $6,000, assume 6 months is probably fair. I hate when I see somebody say, well, I've got $500 in the bank or whatever it is, and they think that they're going to, be an active full-time real estate investor. And I always say, it's probably not a great idea unless you have some kind of money sitting there in the bank. $500 is just not enough to really get the ball moving, at least to produce a living wage, in my estimation. What would you say?
I totally agree. I look at people that there's a dog grooming company in our town, and they charge like $11,900 for a month class to become a dog groomer. And so, that might be a great profession, but I don't know any dog groomers that make $300,000 a year, and I think there's some wholesalers out there that can. So if you're going to invest in this business and do it right, if you can at least put, like we said, $1,000 a month into it and maybe give yourself at least 6 months, you probably shouldn't start. It doesn't mean you can't network. I talked to, it's funny, guys, I put a wholesale deal out to a group of wholesalers that are starting off. They market it, and then I get a phone call from somebody else saying, hey, I got a deal. And it turns out it's actually my house, because guys are getting started by just middling deals, which is fine. It's a big part of this business, but it's a good way maybe to get started without any money. You talked about having that nest egg before you do this on your own. It's a marketing business, and then it's a people business. So if you can team up with somebody that's already doing the marketing, you can take their leads and help them sell them and still make some money to get started.
Are you talking about wholesalers who are promoting your deals back to you?
Yeah, it happens sometimes. And I say, well, that's funny because that's my house. So it goes out into the small town of St. Louis, and it comes back to me sometimes because it gets, and it's even funnier when it's 11,000 more than I priced it. It's like the telephone game. I'll say I'll sell it for 40, and then somebody calls me back and says, I got a deal at 51. And I'm like, yeah, that's my house. So,
but are these guys, so these are guys who have no interest in the deal, that are basically just trying to market a deal that they found and pitch to you. See, I think that's absolutely horrible. I think what they're doing gives a terrible name to investors. I think, I've had a lot of people come to BiggerPockets and scream at me that somebody was promoting a deal that was theirs that they had no right to do, and I get it. I get that they were mad, and I would be absolutely livid. Now, granted, I understand that it's a business where it's all about marketing, but don't market something that you don't have a right to.
Sure. Now, the guys I've dealt with have usually asked me. Yeah. But then they push it out, and then once the web starts to go out, you can't really control it from there.
No.
I don't get mad about it. It's just guys. If you're going to be successful in any business, you need to hustle. Yeah. And so these guys that maybe have no other option are at least trying to get their feet wet in a business. And I don't think they're doing anything wrong. It's just a matter of, can you find a buyer for the property?
I think they're doing something wrong though. I disagree on that, and we're not here to debate it, but I get your perspective and I respect it. I'm not bashing you whatsoever. I'm just saying, the first guy that you gave permission, cool. The next guy who jumps in, who doesn't have the right to do it, is, he's just making a mess of the whole picture. And frankly, you don't know this guy from Adam. You don't know what tactics he's using. You don't know how he's promoting the message. And so you've now lost any and all control of the marketing of that property. I think it's potentially dangerous for you and your business when that happens as one piece of the picture. And I think there's other components as well. I think it's unethical. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes with it, but that's, again, my opinion. And I
actually do disagree slightly with that. I mean, I agree that you could lose control, but if I was selling my house and I was motivated to sell I want to sell my property right now, and Josh, you were to come to me and say, hey, my buddy Jim wants to buy your house. Well, of course I would be like, great, Josh, thanks for finding that buyer. Here's some money, right? Like, I don't care if you're marketing. I don't care if you marketed to a guy who marketed to a guy who marketed to a guy. My house sold for what I wanted. I'm happy, right? That, like, why would I care who's making a profit on it? You know what I mean?
I agree with Brandon. I mean, I almost think, Joshua, do you do a lot of wholesale deals?
I don't do any wholesale deals.
Well, that's what I figured, because that is wholesale. I mean, so is wholesaling wrong then? Do you think wholesaling is wrong?
I do not.
But I don't see how it's any different.
Somebody has an interest in the deal.
Right.
You mean actual, like a contract?
Yeah.
You know what,
I mean, I've had properties I've had to get rid of, and I've told investors, go find somebody to buy it. And, if I'm giving them the right to do it, and they're that point of contact, it's a semantic argument. I mean, I have an issue that somebody just out of the blue is like, hey, what's up? I got a piece of this property. You want to buy it? Well, dude, you don't have jack. Right. Don't pretend that you do. You're misrepresenting yourself is what you're doing. Right. And that is just as bad to me as the whole Bandit Sign thing. You're lying. You're a liar. You're a big fat liar, and I'll never do business with you.
Right.
No, straight up. I mean, like, you're a liar. So in your first thing that you're doing is lying to me. How could I possibly trust anything that you say to me from here forward?
Right. You're right, Josh. And I don't think that they should represent themselves wrong. They should say, hey, I've got this deal. Here's what we can sell it for. Yeah. And to be honest, these guys, I compete with these guys every day in business, right? Sure. They're there, 2 minutes after I'm there, and I love competing against them because my company is very unique. We don't do any weasel clause whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's no more inspections. There's no 72 hours for somebody to come through it. When I write a cash offer, it is as clean as they're ever going to get. And so I'll just say to the people, hey, I know you got a guy offering you $3,000 more, but does it have a 14-day or 21-day inspection period?
Yeah.
And then I just explained to them that they're just getting getting middled. So I mean, I don't mind competing against those guys. I can't really stop them from what they're doing. Yeah. We do our business. We control the deal with the contract. That's.
Yeah. And I think that's great. That's a powerful thing to do. And I think that puts you, I get you said it, that gives you a much better deal than somebody who's going to make a higher offer because they know your deal is going to close, when you say it's going to close. Right. So,
right. Yeah. People like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the whole argument on the as I call them, the Weasley wholesalers, not all wholesalers, but the guys who don't have a right to it, in my estimation. Yeah. It is what it is. We all have different opinions, and I don't think that you're bad for having a different opinion. And
just to be clear, we don't do that. It's happening. Yeah.
Oh no, I know.
I put them out and they come back. It's not something I'm doing.
I'm totally clear on that. Yeah, I get that, man. I know I have an issue if there's, we've got a lot of people. We have 25,000 people who listen to our shows. If somebody sits and listens to the shows, like, that'd be a great idea. And, let me go do that. Don't do it, because you know what? You run into somebody like me, I will blackball you to the end of time. If you do that to me, you will never do business with anyone I know.
I think they should partner with somebody that has a lot of deals and get the permission. They don't need to do it shady. They can do it on the up and up, no problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it comes down to too is what you're pretending. People come on the BiggerPockets forums all the time and they're like, I've got deals in all 50 states and I've got $100 million, like crap like that. Like that is flat out lying, right? Like they're saying that there are deals. But if you say, good. if I say, hey Philip, I got this lead that I'm on a house for $12,000. You interested in it? It's not my lead, but I got a connection. Can I hook you guys up? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if I don't have it under contract. I don't think. I mean, unless there's something legally wrong with not having a real estate license. I don't know, but
right.
I mean, if I get if I get a lead on something from somebody who told me, of course, it's just that's how business is done. There's always middlemen and everything.
Always.
I mean,
And maybe it's in the presentation.
And I think heavily it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I work with a lot of the young wholesalers who are just getting started. So because they trust me, they bring me in super early. So like I know all the numbers of the deal. So sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I just want to make $3,000. Can you go ahead and just buy this house too?" Like they'll bring me the deals and kind of almost step aside because they're almost scared to pull the trigger on any amount of money because they don't know if they can turn around and sell it.
Yeah.
So I like to work with the young wholesalers and go in and say, "Hey, here's what we're willing to pay." I think the other reason why wholesalers like to work with us because we do not get insulted over how much money that they're making. We understand the game. As long as we're buying it at the number that we want to buy it at, I don't care if they make 15, 20 grand on a wholesale deal. It's only a matter of, we look at the numbers. Do they work for us?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So for anyone who's listening, what advice would you give to new wholesalers in terms of how to get the ball moving other than you probably want to have some cash for marketing. What else would you have to say?
You have to join your local RIAs. You have to be start networking. In any business that you start, there's going to be this learning curve that's going to cost you a ton of money. With this business, it's kind of unique because you can get started with no money. If you do your job well and you understand what it costs to rehab and understand what an ARV is, you can get involved in this business and make a lot of money. So I think the more knowledge you can have, the more people that you can align yourself with that know what they're talking about versus just going at it on your own is very, very valuable. So I suggest joining your local RIA, and I also suggest finding someone. There are people in your town that have too many leads. So you need to go out and find that person and try to work with them on their marketing or their efforts and try to learn the business.
That is probably one of my favorite pieces of advice that anybody has said on the BiggerPockets podcast.
Well, thank you.
I seriously love that. Go out, not just find experienced people, but find the guys who have too many leads that they don't know how to deal with and help them deal with them. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah,
awesome.
Very cool. All right, well, the last question I have before we want to move on and start wrapping things up, but what is your plan? I mean, wholesaling is not a 50-year strategy to retire on a beach, right? I mean, what's your goal with all this? Where are you planning on seeing yourself next?
My company has 154 rentals right now. Okay. And so while I don't do anything with the rental side of the business, I'm around a pretty big, that's a lot of houses. So I get to see the pros, the cons of all of that. And so just like anybody that's read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I want to put my, make my asset column be large enough to where if I didn't wholesale anything for a year, I'd be okay.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, why don't we move on then to...
It's time for the fire round.
All right, the fire round. These questions come straight out of the BiggerPockets forums. So let's see what you have to say. Number 1, what is your take on the 70% rule that a lot of flippers or wholesalers use? Like, do you use that formula in your business?
And Brandon, why don't you define it before?
Sure. All right, so 70% rule basically says that whatever the after repair value is, if you multiply that times 0.7 and then subtract out your repairs and then...
That's your offer price.
Well, yeah, and if you're a wholesaler, subtract out your offer price. That's what you should pay for a property. What are your thoughts?
I love that. We use it a little bit different. We actually have an 80% rule. And so when people hear that, their ears perk up because it's higher than the 70% rule, obviously. What they don't know is that we're pretty conservative on our ARVs. Okay. And so you can kind of control the deal because, there might have been a comp for 149, but, if you tell yourself it's 129, you're probably a little safer. So that allows us to be an 80% rule instead of a 70. Now,
that's smarter anyway.
We don't like, in areas we don't like, we definitely use 60%, 70% rule. It's all a matter of the school district and how much do we like the property.
Yep, makes sense. And that's that's just smart to be conservative in your ARV anyway. It's always better to have more upside later. So
it's not a hard, fast rule with any of this. Some people, like the young guys, will come and say, "Well, Phil, I got it for you at your 70 cents on the dollar." But then their ARVs are way out of whack, and the repair numbers is actually where they're always the worst.
Yep.
They don't see, it needs a new roof. It's like, well, how did you not see it? So we use an 80% rule, but it's, it's not a hard, fast rule for any of it. It's just a a good way to look at it.
Okay.
Gotcha. And do you get mad at them for calling you Phil?
No, I'm okay with it.
Just me, huh?
It's just you.
Nice. All right. So would you pay cash for your primary residence? Next question.
I would, but I would turn around and just get a line of credit back against it and put it back in the market. So it's all just an arbitrage play based on what my interest rate and what I can get a return on my money.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. This is kind of a cool question. Never asked this before. Do you think that driving luxury vehicles sends a negative message to renters or sellers?
I love this question. When we get to the final of what my hobbies are, I was going to kind of go into that a little bit. So do you want me to do it now?
How do you know we're going to ask that question?
Well, you always do. It's the famous four.
All right, fine. Somebody who actually listens. Yay.
No. So my hobbies, I consider myself a car guy.
Okay.
So people always say, "Oh, what kind of car do you drive?" I drive a Toyota Camry. It's white.
Nice.
And I've recently been looking at some very, very nice cars, and I can't bring myself to do it. I can't pull up in a $90,000 car to try to buy an $8,000 house. It just looks bad.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think it could be a detriment. And I think if you're going to have a nice car, that's great. Drive it on the weekends. In this business, at least for our area, we're very blue collar. The showy vehicle probably won't help you.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. Pickup truck or just kind of a down to earth average Joe car.
Yeah. A pickup truck's great. I just drive 30,000 miles a year, so I don't want 14 miles a gallon. So that's why I drive there.
Well, you should get the what's that little toy you picked up, Brandon? What's that thing you plug in to your car?
The automatic. Yeah, it's kind of cool. There's a device called Automatic. You plug it into your car, like any car from like 1993 and on, and it'll like help you get better gas mileage. It's kind of cool. Yeah, automatic.com. It's a neat.
Really?
And that is not a paid endorsement. It's just
a neat
something.
I improved my gas mileage driving on my Prius from 42 to 47 just by having this device installed, because it beeps when I stop or speed up too fast. That's the main use of it. Yeah, it trains me to drive a little better without me even noticing. So,
which is amazing because Brandon already drives like a grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my little putt Prius. All right, next question.
Good stuff. All right. Do you think traditional education is necessary for success in real estate? And if so, what degree would you suggest?
That's a great question. Me growing up, college was never championed in my home at all. Not once, ever. And so to say that higher education is what you're going to have to get to where you want to be, I don't believe that at all. It's your own drive. Do I think it's beneficial? Sure. Especially, Joshua, you went to Wash U, very, very good school. And so you've learned a lot from that. And I think just about any person, we all learn from the experience that we've had in life. So for real estate, I think you just need to get in there and start doing deals, whether they're good deals, bad deals. You just need to continually push on. A lot of people, after they would have lost $200,000 in 2007, 8, might have quit and never even looked at real estate again, but I just kept pushing on. So I don't think it's necessary, but I'm very biased because I never went to one day of college.
Right. Well, I learned how to do a keg stand at college.
Yeah, I know.
and everything that I've learned in my business, I've taught myself. 100%. 100%. And yet, it's funny. I think it really is based upon your upbringing. College was like pushed in my brain. You got to do college. And, I certainly learned a lot of things in school besides just doing a keg stand. But in the end, was it valuable? Absolutely. Could I be where I am without it? Sure. But to your point, I think there's a lot of people skills and other skills that you do get. And I think it's a good path for folks. It's not going to guarantee you a job. That's for sure.
Yeah,
sure. And I've heard that really good wholesalers a lot of times have a sales background.
Yeah.
And so for me, that just has always come naturally.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so that really, really helps me with what I do every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. I agree. A sales background does help. And that's probably why I struggle more with, I don't like talking to people because I don't like sales. So I need to go get a job at Verizon or something. All right. Final question in the fire round. This one's actually my forum post. There's a baby bird in my wall. It's like there's birds in my wall. What do I do? Do I clear them out
are they still there?
No, they're gone now. But
so have they started to smell?
No, they're alive. Like they built a nest and there's baby birds. What would you do in that case? You got baby birds in your wall because you had a hole in your siding because you were lazy and didn't patch it up. Would you wait till they fly away?
when they die, they're going to smell really badly. And so is it a rental house or is it a house you're going to sell?
No, it's actually my own personal residence.
Oh, crap. Oh, yeah, you want to get them out of there.
But if they're not dead, I mean, they're just, they built a nest and they're inside my wall nesting. Do you wait until after the birds are gone? Do you pick them up and take them out of there?
Yeah, I'd get them out.
You punch a hole in the wall. What the hell kind of question is that?
Yeah.
Wait till they die. You cut a hole in the wall and you save the birds. That's what
Maybe it's time to rehab that wall or blow it out or something.
Yeah, man.
Well, what I did is I took the wall out of the outside. I took the siding off the outside, and that way I could just put it, because I have cedar shake siding, just put it all back in place. So,
well, not to one up your story, but I bought a house a few years back, and the family had 13 raccoons living in the attic.
Wow.
Did they know that were they aware or just
No, they were actually out of town and the house was vacant, and so they came back and found it just a huge mess. It was about a $5,000 bill. They had to replace all the insulation and some drywall work. Fortunately, they stayed in one corner of the home, so that really helped. But yeah, you got to get critters out of there. There's a saying, "No good could come of it," so you got to get them out.
All right. Good advice. All right. Well, why don't we move on to the last segment of the show, which we like to call the Famous Four. All right. The Famous Four. These questions are the ones we ask everyone. You've listened to every one of our shows, Phillip, so I know you know what's coming. Number one, what is your favorite real estate book?
Well, guys, I have a confession to make. I might be the only person that hasn't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Oh. So knowing that I was going to be on this show, I read it last week. And it's a great book. I mean, so I hate to be cliche and go with it, but what I really, really liked about it is that I'm kind of already putting a lot of those things in my life into place anyway. So it was just more of an affirmation of, hey, you're on the right path. Yep. But I do think anybody should read it.
That's just right on.
That's what it was for me when I read it. It wasn't so much that it taught me; it's more that it affirmed. That's a good way of saying it. It affirmed all those things that were like swirling around up in my head somewhere, and like put them on paper. And I was like, oh, somebody else gets what I'm trying to say. And then I find out there's like a whole community of 170,000 people who agree with what I'm trying to say.
So, 175.
Right. And kind of for Joshua too. We talked about education earlier. I mean, we've been taught so many things that have nothing to do with what life is like. And so I think that book kind of made you look at life a little bit differently. And a good example is, we're getting ready to talk about the hobbies and the cars and expensive cars again. Instead of me going out and paying cash for an expensive car, I'm looking at ways to how many assets do I need to buy to pay for that car? And I just think that's the greatest part about it is that we have to change our brains a little bit.
Yep. All right. So next question is, what is your favorite fantasy novel?
I'm going to go with my favorite business book.
Is that the question?
I don't read.
Who changed my notes? Come on.
Yeah, no fiction for me.
I'm kidding. I know. Yeah. What's your favorite business book?
For me, it's a book called The Big Rich by Brian Burrow. It's about the history of the oil business and how it's changed this country. And it's just a great read. It's it has some huge arcs. What was the family's name? The Hunt family. He decided he was going to buy all the silver in the world.
Wow.
And it backfired on him. And so just, these guys, these entrepreneurs that, said they tried to do things that couldn't be done. And it's just a great read. It's one of my favorite books.
Cool. I haven't read that one. I'll check it out.
Nice.
All right. Josh, you want to take the next one?
Oh, yeah. So, sorry, I was sleeping at the wheel there. Whoa. All right. So
did you forget to unmute your mic?
I did. I completely, there's like a wicked thunderstorm happening right now, so I've got to mute it every time.
Nice.
I'm not talking. So yeah, next question. Hobbies other than your fancy expensive cars you show off.
No,
I'm kidding, Phil.
I like to look at them. Fortunately, I have a joint partner that I do some side deals with.
Yeah.
And his family actually hit oil down in Texas.
Oh, nice.
And he has an Audi R8, a Nissan GTR, and he's buying a Tesla. So anytime I get the itch, he just throws me the keys. And so that's really, really helped me.
I need that friend.
Yeah, that's good to have.
We all do. He's a great guy.
He's like the friend of anybody who wants a boat, because, the two worst day on a boat owner's life are the day you buy. The best days are the day you buy and the day you sell. So... yeah. Yep. Right on.
So yeah, that helps me with as far as hobbies, it's sick to say, but I really like to look at real estate. Yeah. My wife and I just went to Los Angeles, and we spent half the time or more just looking at estates in Beverly Hills.
Nice.
And Malibu, and just looking at real estate. I saw a $20 million lot. I was on the water.
Oh,
so
cool.
I mean, I just like to look at. I mean, I really love real estate, so it's what I do, even for a hobby.
Yeah, cool. And you said you have a son. When I cut you off earlier in the show, and was a big fat jerk about it. So let's talk about your boy now.
Sterling, he's 20 months old, and my wife is pregnant. We'll have another baby in August.
Mazel
tov. 2 kids, yes.
Congrats.
Very cool.
That's great.
It's great. I love being a dad.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, final question. What do you believe sets apart successful real estate investors from those who give up or fail?
I have a couple, but I'll just read them. I stopped blaming others for my failures.
That's good.
People don't do that. They blame everyone else for everything that's wrong. And once I stopped blaming anyone else for my failures or my shortcomings, it's really helped me be more successful. The other big thing is I play ping pong all day long. And what I mean by that is, in business, something comes my way, I try to hit that ball back as soon as I can, put that whatever's needing to be done back in their court. Yeah. So that way, when I go to bed at night, I don't think, oh man, I forgot to send that lead-based paint, or I forgot to do whatever it was. I go to bed at night knowing that everything else has been pushed back, that I can push back into the other piece, the other side of the table, I guess you'd say.
Gotcha.
That's great.
Yeah, I think I've never heard it described as ping pong, but I think I do the same thing. And, although that could lead to a frantic and very busy, I'm always having to get back to somebody type of a feeling, which Brandon's actually been yelling at me about, and I'm trying to do less of that.
Sure. But, my wife yells at me about it too. So I've been, trying to take some time in the evenings where the phone's not on, just to kind of help with that.
No, that's great. That's great. Awesome.
My other big thing is I'm really never satisfied with being mediocre. I look at life as if there's a game to play, I want to win that game.
Yep.
And so that's just a drive that's inside of me. So I think that sets me apart than a lot of other people as well.
That's awesome.
Nice. And really quick, thank you so much. Where can people learn more about you? And by the way, as I was telling you guys, there's a storm because I had to mute. We are now in a full-on hailstorm. It is wicked. The cars outside. There's like almost golf ball size hail cranking around out here. And you could hear it if I shut up for a second.
Nice.
Be careful.
So yeah, I'm inside. Where don't have to worry about it. Where can people learn more about you?
You can find me at fasterhouse.com. It's like run faster. And you could also email me at Phillip, PHILLIP, @fasterhouse.com.
Cool. Very cool. And of course, you're on BiggerPockets all the time. I see you there in the forums. So, and we'll point to that in the show notes. So all those links, and at BiggerPockets.com/show71. And Josh is taking a video right now of the hail, so he'll put that up on the show notes as well.
The hail, yeah. This is awesome.
All right, so we're gonna put that on the show notes. With that, Phillip, thank you very, very much. This show has been incredible. We've had a good time. I learned a ton from you.
As did I.
Yeah. Watch this, Josh. I'm going to totally take
despite our debate.
Despite your debate.
Okay.
I wasn't mad at you. I'm not mad at anyone. I'm mad at the people who are being shady. I hate that.
Yeah. I know.
I agree.
All right. Well, I'm going to take us out then because Josh is busy making videos on his phone.
Oh, must be nice. Yeah. Take it out, Brand. Take out let's do the whole tail end of the show right here. It's all right yours.
Here we go. All right, everyone. Phillip, once again, thank you. Everyone else, you can listen to the, I screwed it up already.
This is why I do it,
All
folks.
right, fine. Do it, Josh. Take it.
Oh, come on. I'll give you a shot there, big guy. Come on, slugger.
Okay, here I go. I can do it. For everyone else, everyone listening to the show can find the show notes at BiggerPockets.com/show71. As always, we love reviews and ratings on iTunes. So please, if you have not done that yet, it really helps us stand out. It helps people learn more about us, to find us on iTunes, all that good stuff. So please do that. Also connect with us, Facebook, G+, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm a big Twitter fan. And jump on BiggerPockets. We love interacting in the forums. So come say hello. And with that, this is Brandon Turner signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
See, it wasn't that easy, was it, Brandon?